Today on Supernormalized, we have Ray Crist. Ray is the head of the Jaguar path, a school of shamanism which teaches you to take a shamanic path towards heart-centered healing and reconnection with the world. Ray went through his own healing crisis, which had him stuck with stage 4 cancer and a death diagnosis which never actually came. In the end, he found his own path as instructed by a shaman to become a shaman to heal himself. Today's story is about everything that he went through and what he learned from that and how he healed himself and what the Jaguar path could do for you. So, on with the show. Looking at the statistics that I have for YouTube and for my podcast apps, I have a lot of listeners and viewers that aren't yet liked and subscribed. So if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. It's free. And if you're on a podcast app, please give me 5 stars. That'd be really cool. It helps other people find these great conversations too. Thank you. Welcome to Supernormalized, Ray Crist. Ray. So Ray, you have had quite a story arc in your life in that you were extremely challenged by your body, maybe because of your lifestyle or whatever was going on at the time. And in doing so, it forced you into becoming your own shaman.
Yeah, that's a perfect description in a nutshell. I was I was a fashion and advertisement photographer in Athens, Greece, with my claim to fame, Vogue covers and bulletin boards across the city. Successful for that career meant that I was working 90 hours a week, that I was under constant pressure, big budgets, short deadlines, and that pressure. And in that, at some point, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I was given 3 months of life.
Whoa! And
this is 2003. So that really paused me on my tracks. And while I was thinking that everyone around me was right, great job, great career and all that, it looked like, turns out, that my soul wasn't really feeling that. My soul wasn't happy or thriving. So with that said, I paused and I realized that, well, what have I done, or what have I done wrong? And if I could have had a chance to do it all over again, what would have I done? The sense of regret as a young teenager at 15, I had come across the books of this amazing guy called Carlos Castaneda, who wrote these books about his apprenticeship with a shaman or a sorcerer in Mexico by the name of Don Juan Matus. So I was enamored with it from 16 to 25. I read all his books till the end of Castaneda's life. I read all his books. But then when I was ready to take on life, I really got carried away with my new motorcycle and cameras and this whole career and the whole idea of being in jungles or mountains and working with people of energy kind of disappeared out of my awareness. And so when that happened, 20, 30 years later, when I was 39 years old and got diagnosed, I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? I didn't do what I was supposed to. I should have become that. I should have found these shamans. So I'll fast forward and say that was an absolute reason for me to stop everything, pause everything, sell or give away everything I had, and take a backpack and head south. Or I said I head west first. I started immediately on my diagnosis doing acupuncture on myself. I was in acupuncture and Chinese medicine school at the time. Also, so started doing acupuncture. I started doing herbs. I started taking care of myself. I upped my yoga, I upped my Tai Chi and Kung Fu practices. I took more time alone, and I managed to already stretch that a year. But then, I said, maybe I should check. It's a year. Let's see what's happening in that. Where they had presented it, and characteristically, it was like a mess. The doctor said, it's a mess in there. So a year later, I left and went to the United States, to Johns Hopkins, and they said the same. I said, well, is there nothing I could do? They said, the best thing you should do is take care of your affairs. Don't leave things for others to do for you.
What?
And why didn't you do anything? And why did you wait for a whole year? And it's like, so again, I'll fast forward. Nothing of it was like really phasing me. I was hearing it, but I wasn't believing it. And I was like, I am either in total denial or there's some way out of this. And that's what I'm tapping into, the some way out of it. So again, fast forwarding a story of 3-4 years until that moment, they were interested in my case because I had been diagnosed for such a long time and hadn't done anything about it. And from kidney cancer, it had gone to my other kidney. It had moved apparently to my lungs. And they offered me to take part in a study of the NIH, National Institute of Health in DC. And I did. And there I did one surgery. I gave up my right kidney, which seemed to be the first place where it all had started, and from there spread. And I know till today that if I hadn't done that surgery, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be alive. Yet after my surgery, only a few months later, I ventured through Peru and started finding amazing, powerful men and women, beautiful men and women of knowledge of nature and life and the nature of life itself. I fell on my knees in front of Don Francisco, who is an elder of the Quero Nations people and tribe. And I said, save me, Francisco. Don Francisco, I have cancer and I'm dying. Can you please save me? And he put his hands over my shoulders and kind of like helped me stand up. And he said, listen, I can't heal you, but I can train you to become a shaman and you can heal yourself. And it was the first time that the whole ordeal had me on my knees, psychologically, mind-wise, body, everything. And that was the first time I really got off my knees. I really stood up. And I said, you know what? Wow, okay, there's everyone else outside me. I've been trying, but there's a lot more that I can do. I can train. I can become this shaman. I have this opportunity, which I missed when I was younger, what I regretted not doing. So I said, let's start. We're still friends, we're family. He's like a father to me, he's like a brother to me. We've watched our kids grow up together. He's coming here in Greece in a couple months. We meet at least once a year. We talk at least once a month. And we're very, very close. We've both him and I have managed to grow older and be in our 60s now. And it's just been a wonderful path. Difficult in the beginning, a focused one throughout. On my third year, my apprenticeship with him, I said, what do we do next? And he said, what you need to do next is begin to teach everything I've taught you. I said, but how am I going to do that? I'm like a white man. I'm not from the tribe. I'm not from Peru or from the jungle or from the Andes. He said, you are going to teach in English. Don Francisco has a wonderful sense of humor. Right? He said, what I've taught you, you have to teach. You can't be selfish and keep it inside you. If you keep it inside you, then it becomes stale and it doesn't function. But if you start teaching it, it's going to become alive. It's going to flower, and you realize that all that you've had, and of course this is 3 years later, I'm thriving, I'm alive. The people in the NIH are telling me there's nothing in your lungs. The other kidney seems to be so much more clear. Your liver is fantastic. Whatever you're doing, keep on doing. And of course I'm not telling them that I'm, in the meantime, leaving the NIH and going down to the jungle, doing plant medicine, and magic, or ceremonies, giving thanks to the earth, connecting with the elements, learning from the animals, and being steeped in this tradition and this tribe of the Quero people. So here I am. And he says, you can't keep this. He's like, it will be stale inside you. You have to start offering it. And the more you begin to offer, the deeper it will root. Because what I've given you, he said, is wisdom, these practices, these ways of clearing out the body and fine-tuning the mind and connecting those together and opening the heart. You'll find that these were the seeds I gave you. And only when you start teaching will they flower. And that's going to be, on one hand, they'll be rooted deeper in you and in your internal organs. And on the other hand, they'll flower and bloom and blossom outward. And with that, in 2007, I opened the Jaguar Path School of Yoga and Shamanism, which has expanded to be School of Yoga, Tai Chi, and Shamanism, where we teach people basically everything that I've learned, or highlight or focus from the many tools and techniques that I've learned from them, from Francisco and two more shamans who I apprenticed with during these years. I've isolated 18 tools that I felt that they were most deep and important, that made a difference. Those after those tools where I was having those ahas and feeling liberation, more clear, healthier, etc. So the Jaguar Path is an online school now for the last 5 years. Ever since COVID, we had to go live online, and we've been continuing to thrive and expand now throughout the world. And once again, I've learned that a difficulty in life, my personal difficulty in life with cancer, really brought me to evolve and heal in a much deeper way and expand myself in a deeper way. And the same with COVID, letting go this time of the United States and walking away once more with a backpack. I stayed for 3 years in Costa Rica, isolated mostly in the jungle and the beaches on the west side of Costa Rica. There, once again, a difficulty allowed me to expand even more. Now our school is in more than 12 countries online. We have students from around the world. And we teach 1 weekend a month for 9 months. And in that, every session, I teach 2 tools, one every day. And I followed Francisco's guidance on this, for sure, and I continue to. But especially when I said, well, how do I teach it? And he said, you teach it in English. And what I understood, because now when I was in Peru, I was dying. I wasn't there for any shamanic tourism or some new agey ideas to, hear about what colors the chakras are. I was dying. I needed answers. I needed truth. I needed ways that would actually heal. And this is what I got. I mean, I met 50 or I met 100 shamans. I met a lot of wannabes. I met a lot of tourist shamans. I met scammers. I met the whole kind. And I've come to also know that there's all kinds of people in the world within the gamma of the player to the most authentic person, to the most deeply knowledgeable, to the most arrogant. And you'll find that everywhere in all parts of the world, in all professions. But I had clarity as I was seeking to actually find healing, and as I was a real skeptic about all this, coming from Vogue covers to be in the jungle and listening to a shaman is a long stretch. So I questioned every single thing they said, and I had my eyes wide open because I had also a timer ticking, my life disappearing, and I needed to really heal. So for me, teaching it in English meant that I need to find the science of it. I need to understand the science behind every single tool. And that is what we offer in the Jaguar Path training in yoga and shamanism. We have come all the way up to now, to the point where we are offering, besides the training as it is, we're offering it as a master's and a PhD degree through Ubiquity University. So,
wow, that's cool.
Yeah, my goal is to bring it back, to be part of this movement, of bringing this back to mainstream. Because we're all magic. We're all magic,
Of course.
Like, oh, do you believe in magic? Or that's fairy tales. So, well, there's a lot of truth in fairy tales. and there's a lot of non-truth in Facebook and in this dry life of cities. People think that because we live in cities and we have iPhones and computers and fast cars or microwaves, that we've evolved, and none of those are a part of evolution, because psychologically we're still pretty much Neanderthals. It's like, I'm going to take your oil, here, give me that. I'm going to come and take your, come and dig in your country and take what I want. It's just like, it's just thugs still moving around. And that's not a political statement, it's an anthropological statement. We could see.
It's also an accurate observation.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I see it all the time.
Yeah, we don't have a club that we're hitting someone over the head, but we have bombs and guns and political powers and influences and all
laws.
all those. Well, to my surprise, when I left Greece with the backpack, I thought I was going to have to look in the deepest jungles, which I did, the highest mountains, which I did. I thought I was looking for something that was almost extinct and absolutely super rare. And turns out that shamanism was never extinct. It was only extinct in the West, and that's in Europe and in the States. But in so many places of the world, and with the Zulu in Africa, or the Aborigines in Australia, or the curanderos and brujos in Mexico, I just started traveling through Central and South America, discovered that it's wide, alive, and widely spread, and present everywhere, and in every village and mountain and jungle. Shamans are still the healers for the people. And there's just so many people, so many places in the world where you're going to say, well, if you have something, go to the doctor and then go to the pharmacy. Well, there's more places in the world that don't have doctors and pharmacies than there are. That might be our limited reality in the big cities or in the quote-unquote, well, in the Western world. But it's not the truth for the biggest part of the planet. In the biggest part of the planet, there's still shamanism through China, through India, through Mongolia, Russia, everywhere. And you know, CeeJay, I was looking to find, in my teenage mind or my youth mind, when I was reading Castaneda, I was thinking these are people of extreme power, of some hidden superhuman power, and that I would perhaps learn this and become a super being, a superman of sorts. And I've learned it, and And what I've, though, come to learn that all this is, and especially with the tribe that I work with, the Karo people, is that their superpower is affection. Affection, affection, affection. Be affectionate to yourself. Be affectionate to your family. Be affectionate as a response to people that are either yelling at you or cutting you off, that are either loving you or they're either asking help. There's everything you're going to meet. Life is everything. Life is everything. Everything is happening. Let me just restate that. Everything in life, everything is happening every moment. Like this moment we speak, there's a baby born, there's a human being born, a human being dying. And everything in between that is happening. There's someone falling in love, and there's someone being heartbroken and betrayed. There's someone saying, I love you, and there's someone saying, I hate you. There's someone laughing, and there's someone crying. Everything is happening. Now, as we jump in, or as we appear in this place where everything is happening, we navigate it. We can navigate it. And most people, like myself, I said, was I supposed to have a successful career, make money, whatever that was that I thought was success in life. And I followed that. But I was never told, and I had forgotten from what I had read, that I could actually come in the driver's seat. I felt that, yes, I was efforting on one hand, but life was happening outside me. And the success was outside me. And it was outside me. It wasn't inside me. The success wasn't inside me. The proof was that cancer was inside me. In other words, there was a huge part of myself that was miserable, that was not happy, that was not healthy, that was not really enjoying life. So when I learned that affection is the most powerful healing energy, I also learned that loving yourself is the most powerful healing energy. And the actual way people say, well, isn't that narcissistic? Or if you're loving yourself, isn't that egoistic? Or isn't that self-centered? And good questions, really good questions. The answer is no. No to all of the above. If you begin to love yourself, then you begin to learn how to love others. And if you begin to love yourself, then you're not out there making relationships, copy-pasting what you lacked in your childhood. That love you felt you didn't get, maybe from the parents, or the recognition you feel that you didn't get in kindergarten and first grade. What happens is we establish these patterns by the time we're 7, and we have these patterns inside our nervous system and our endocrine system. You know, people talk about thinking, and have these patterns of thinking, or these patterns of this. Patterns are deeply engraved in our body, in the endocrine system and the nervous system. They express themselves in our body. They express themselves through the motor system of the body. People's patterns show up in the motor system, in the way they move, in their body language. And they express themselves even deeper in the way we think. And thoughts are nothing but words put together that we've crammed in this other organ called the brain, which we in the West have decided or think that it's the most important organ in the body, in our reality, and it expresses it and understands God and the whole reality. There could be nothing further from the truth than that. The brain is an awesome calculator, is an awesome computer, and it computes the past to project in the future. What I've learned is that everyone that is really smart and thinking and calculates everything they've learned in the past to really precisely direct their future have all missed out. Because there's only one moment that life is happening, and that's in the present moment. And the brain is not present, because the brain is a processor, it's not a feeler, it doesn't communicate with the outside world directly. There is another organ, though, that does, and that's the heart. The heart itself, and I'm not talking about some kind of romantic idea, I'm talking literally the organ of the heart. We've seen these amazing studies in the last 20 years coming out of Harvard Medical, where they've found in the early 2000s they've discovered what is called HRV, heart rate variability. They discovered that the heart doesn't beat. Each beat is not in the same equivalent time. There's a shift of time, and we're talking about nanoseconds, right? 0.8 zeros of difference of time, but it's very, very definite and defined. And what that does is your heartbeat changes. It goes toot 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 toot. It's, I envision it, I feel it as this, like almost like Morse code. There's a drum beat, any way you want to say it, that is essentially reading the electromagnetic fields of everything around. And through this electromagnetic fields, it's translating and pulsing, telling the thyroid, the hypothalamus, and the pineal gland what is happening, and what hormones to secrete in order to mirror this external reality in the appropriate way. But we've been trained out of feeling our heart. It's left as romantic songs, and we're talking about heartbreak, or we're talking, or some cliches, follow your heart. But if you really follow your heart, and if you start really listening to what's happening in your ribcage, you can change the way you are. You can change the way you are. In this study at Harvard Medical, in the HRV, they started doing these experiments, and they saw that when they put two people in a room, and neither were told where their HRV is, what's happening, when you put two people in the room, the person with a lower HRV always wants to raise their HRV to match. So in other words, in 5 minutes, the person with a lower HRV would have rises up to match that higher HRV. That's great. Christ was here, Buddha was here. If we had all matched their HRV, we'd be living in a very, very different reality today. But the only thing is that people don't know how to listen to that. We haven't, and it's a matter of attention. It's a matter of attention. It's a matter of actually also knowing what attention means and how to use it and where to put it. So in other words, we put attention to our mind, and when our mind tells us stories, the stories outside don't matter, because when you hear your brain say, well, you know what, you're not really tall enough for this job, you really don't have enough money, or your house isn't really that great, all this negative talk that we have in our head, or I'll never do it, I'll never be good enough, so much negative talk. See, the brain is closer to the heart than anyone else, and the heart believes it. It overrides the heart. It overrides the heart. This conversation. So when I was here taking this whole idea of HRV and understand that heart rate variability and focus is one of the most important things, how to focus on something. And you see it, when people focus on something, they can make the pyramids. I don't care if they don't have cranes, they don't have electric or electricity or all that. They can make the Acropolis. They can make these beautiful temples. What do we make today? Not much compared to that. But the essence is when we focus, we could do unbelievable things. Unbelievable for the mind things. We can surpass the mind. The mind is still a part of being Neanderthal. When you can start navigating every moment through your heart and listening to your heart, first of all, you learn how to stand taller, you learn how to project your chest forward, you learn how to stand, in other words, with integrity. You become trustworthy, you are trustworthy, you can hold secrets for people, you can hold weight for others, you can carry some other people. Your mind is all about itself and its ego and how it protects itself. So we live in a world where everyone is trying to protect themselves. And for a buck, everyone sells out. And they'll sell out to do millions of COVID vaccines. They'll sell out to do whatever it is. They sell out. They'll sell out. The mind will sell out like this. What is it that you wouldn't do if I give you $10 million? And the mind, the way it's been cultivated and the way we perceive it, there's nothing it would do for. There's nothing they would say no to for $10 million, because that's the value it has. Even if your HIV is rushing and say, well, don't take those $10 million because 10 million people might die, it will be overridden. It will override it. You'll be like, I don't know, I don't see the people, and if I don't see the people dying, I'll just press this button they told me, and I'll take the $10 million. I'll fly this airplane and spray chemicals and bacteria in the sky. I'm getting paid for it. I'm doing the right thing. I brought food to my family, and everything else is okay. But, and again, these are not political statements. These are anthropological. They're anthropological statements. And for us and for the shamanic work, and it's okay, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. We're driving ourselves to extinction. It happened in Easter Island, where they cut down all their trees. They cut down everything, and at the end there was cannibalism until every single human being died. And there's a really great example of what happened in Easter Island, of how we are short-sighted and we don't think to plan ahead. With that said, it's about feeling, it's about trusting your heart. And one of the most important things we teach, and I've learned, is that there's a couple voices in your head. And some people say, well, there's a lot more, there's a busload, and that's true for many also. But there's at least a couple of voices. And we all have that voice. The one voice we call the narrator, which essentially is narrating like a parrot, Well, I know what I've learned on Facebook and in Instagram, what people will say and what society expects and what we think of all this programming and all this, these deeply rooted patterns that we follow along with everyone else. So we think that success is what everyone else is doing. And again, like I said previously, it's like I'm beginning now to listen to the narrator because this is the voice everyone shares. I've heard it from 100 people, so it must be true. And we do it. You know, when the water buffalo in Africa cross the river, they all cross together. Because if you're crossing with a herd and have that herd mentality, then there's less chances of you getting eaten by the crocodile. So in a mammalian level, there's truth to this, but in a human level, it has not allowed us to rise above that mammalian level. Our human brain has only separated us from mammals only to the extent of just being more organized in how we're self-centered. And again, I go back to saying that these two voices are in our head, and we all have them. Have you ever said there's something, or when we were kids, someone brought drugs and said, well, do we try drugs? And you have one voice saying, oh my God, that's super cool, we'll all do this. And there's another voice inside saying, do not do this is no good. And we kind of like override it. And that voice of like discernment and knowing the correct thing to do or not to do is always directly coming from your HRV, the intelligence of the heart. And again, 60% of the heart cells are neuron cells. They're thinking, processing cells, exactly like the brain. Also, as is, everything that comes down to the gut. But we don't listen to our gut instinct. We don't listen to what our heart's truth. And we just go along with the water buffalo and say, oh, let's do some drugs when you're young, or let's do this, or let's vote that, or let's do this that everyone else is doing. And it's really tricky because, you know, you're in your head. So to sum up, really, if I would say two things about a shamanic way of being is that you're disregarding your thoughts. You've learned, let me just say that a little bit clearer, you learn how to discern what your narrator voice is and what your shaman voice is inside you. And you retrain yourself. You retrain yourself as a sweet animal, the sweet animals, mammals that we are. And you retrain yourself to really to make choices that are good for your whole being. And you begin to discover that the choices that are really good for your whole being are choices that are good for everyone around you. And when you make those choices, there's a reflection. You send out this pulse of love and you receive love. There's a lot of work that we do in the training, these 9 months of a gestation to come to this rebirth, to change. And in 9 months, there's some very interesting things that happen biologically to us as months go by. So the setup of our meeting once a month, I give tools that help people progressively make those changes so it eventually sinks into the mind and allows the heart to rise. You have to become smarter to become a shaman. You have to become wiser and with a quality of discernment. And you have to become less selfish, but rather become a beacon of light and love and let go of this thing that has caught us all. It's like, how much can I get? And you start walking around saying, how much can I give? Everywhere you go, you walk in a store, you say, hi, how much can I give? You meet a person, how much can I give? Right? It makes you smile, it makes you laugh. Because why? Because energy is released in you, because you're recognizing, your HRV is recognizing that that's abundance. Yes. That's abundance. Here I am in Peru, in this village that has no asphalt and barely has a cable that brings electricity to the village, barely. It's almost like an extension cord. And this guy's walking down with his donkey, and I see him on his donkey with such integrity, with such a smile, and he comes and he is a shaman. He gets off, he has such self-confidence, such truthfulness, And I'm like, I've never had that self-confidence, never had that ease inside me, that even driving my most expensive BMW back in the day when I was a photographer. Right? We've skewed the values, or the values have been skewed in history. So I'll pause there and say everyone's a shaman, and the only thing you need to do is decide it. And then say, okay, well, how am I going to sharpen the shaman inside me? Go to the Jaguar Path school or to 100 other schools that exist. Or travel and learn.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a calling too. I mean, it's a matter of actually recognizing that this is what your true nature really is. And in recognizing that too, connecting with your intuition, which is connecting to the heart. And as you say, that's the shamanic voice. And I think that's the important part that has been dissolved in our reality when it comes to all the social media and all of that stuff. And that recovery of that allows us to become one with nature again in co-creation.
Absolutely, absolutely. One with nature again in co-creation, absolutely. So well said. You know, people ask me, you know, all these years with shamans, you know, some say they're like, oh, that's all bullshit. Oh yeah, well, there's like sarcasm around it, that it's some kind of mumbo jumbo new agey thing. Well, thank God for the hippies and the New Agers, because they opened that, they cracked it open a little bit, so they gave the pathway, right? And the hippies that went to India brought yoga. It's changed the face of the world in Australia and America, and it's like given us so much health and clarity. And actually, you know, if you go a little further behind, because if you really know history and you look at some things, the New Age whole wave was opened by Carl Jung. Because Carl Jung traveled and met shamans. Carl Jung really brought about and said, we're missing something. And his big disagreement with Freud was that the Freudian school and the Jungian school. Freud was like, we can't say that, because Freud was trying to establish psychology at the time as a science in the university, so everything had to be really real, because people knew a lot in the 1900s. Everyone was so uptight, and everyone was so square, and everyone was so just prisoners of social structures that were accidentally made.
Yeah.
Centuries of people went by and suffered in their heart, in their mind, because there's, well, what were the neighbors going to say, and what is this, and you will be arrested for that, and just this echo of the witch hunt. And I'll close by saying this: in the Dark Ages, people were put to the pyre, hundreds of thousands of people. 3 things were persecuted: women, the feminine; animals, they're extinct in Europe practically; and the third, magic. The Quero Nations people, when the conquistadors arrived in Peru, 100 of them took off and went up high into the mountains and hid. They hid for 500 years. For 500 years, no one knew they existed. They lived as they always lived, in houses they built of stone, staffs, and they had their llamas, and they planted potatoes. And they started coming down in the 70s, only to discover that everyone that was there either had died or their spirit had died, and found people that followed this religion that was called the Industrial Revolution and technological revolution. There's nothing wrong with computers and iPhones and cars. I love it all, and I love the modern world. It would be great, though, if we could overcome, because what these people brought back, what they protected, was not only their life, they protected their language, Quechua, which is as powerful as Sanskrit, because it holds true, deep truths of discernment and clarity. And what they teach us is that the first thing you need to do if you want to be a conscious human being and want to walk truth is that you have to bow to the feminine. If you don't bow to your mother that gave life to you, you're an unaware, selfish being. If you can't bow to your sister who holds it, if you can't bow to your grandmother, and if you don't bow, first of all, to the greatest mother of all, Mother Earth, then you're just really out of reality. You've lost sense of reality, which is what happened, right? And then the animals, I mean, who doesn't have a pet? Who doesn't yearn to, like, when you see a wild animal, it's like your whole HRV races. If you could see a dog wagging its tail, a cat purring, and all the funny things you'll see monkeys do, and there's all this cuteness and sweetness and aliveness that is all God, divine energy expressed purely. We've lost that. We've taken it out. It's cleared out. We like live in cities of cement and we don't have that happiness. They teach us to learn. So the Karo Nation people teach us, first of all, to respect the feminine and honor it and give ceremony to it and service to it. Second, to learn from the animals and work with the animals. And third, that magic is everywhere and always. And I'll tell you that the magic that I've learned from these people was proven in CAT scans and MRIs and in the biggest, greatest doctors of the world in the National Institute of Health in Washington, D.C., bowed to it, not knowing. They say, whatever it is you're doing, keep on doing. We've never seen this before.
Awesome. That's a great summary right there, Ray. And I know you've got to go, so I thank you so much for everything that you've shared today. And I just let you riff because you had so much real goodness to get out there, and I don't think any questions being thrown in there would have added any more because it was just amazing. Thank you so much.
CeeJay, thank you. It's been an honor, and I hope one day we make it down to Australia, the Jaguar path.
Yes, that'd be awesome. All right. Thanks, Ray.
Thanks again. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, you too, mate. Bye. Again, another amazing talk. Thank you very much, Ray. And I would recommend anyone interested at all to jump over to his website at jaguarpath.com to learn more. And I resonated so deeply with everything that Ray shared because I too had been through experiences in the past myself with learnings from Carlos Castaneda's books. And yeah, I had my own healing crisis with cancer, not as bad as his, but mine was still a challenge and made me open my eyes in different ways to the world. All power to Ray and what he's doing in helping to reveal the end of the cycle of the blindness to the paradigm of magic and how we all are a part of that co-creation and where that can lead us all to heart. If you've enjoyed today's show, like and subscribe, and also get onto your podcast app and give us 5 stars. That'd be really cool. And thank you so much for listening. Until next episode, it's bye for now. Subscribe.